back in the room.
All right, I'll do an intro later. How are you? How are you again?
Okay today. The sun is shining, and that always makes me feel good. And I've just been for a walk around the park, so that's beautiful with a friend, which has been lovely. And so all the other stuff can take a running jump right now.
I want to say this before I forget, that before we started talking, I was just telling Karen a little bit about how I'm having angst this week about security and the world. And I'm all of a sudden like want to buy a house, but I don't want to buy a house. And then she just dispensed some very important wisdom, which was basically do what you want to do and don't do what other people are doing, which we all know by now.
Yeah. And that's really hard. It's easy for me to say. I'm very good at giving advice, but the fact of the matter is, you know, when everybody is doing the same thing, it feels weird being on the outside of that.
Yeah.
But if you want to follow that, that's fine. But if your heart is saying this doesn't feel right for me, then just don't, because you regret it. But also you're allowed to change your mind. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed around how my life is shaping up is that remembering that I have choices. That when I felt trapped, that made me ill. And when I realized, oh, I can leave my job. Oh my God, I can change my mind. I'm a grown up. These little things, have made all the difference to my mental well-being and subsequently my physical well-being. So I feel like it is easy to get sucked in, but you stand your ground. And then if you change your mind in a year's time, then fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a grown up. It's your life, girl.
So you left teaching, didn't you? You left teaching when you were in the throes of menopause.
Yes, I did.
What happened?
I'd been a teacher for 28 years by the time that I left. So I'd split up from my partner years before. And so I threw myself into my job, of course, put my kids in therapy, and then threw myself into my job and made it my life's purpose to keep my job, which meant I could keep my house, which meant I could, all the stuff. But it also meant that I ignored I didn't put myself in therapy because I decided I couldn't afford it. And I think we often do that. Is what we do is we decide that we can afford things for other people who we love, or for the house or for the car, but that we can't actually turn that love on ourselves. So that's what I did, and that made me ill basically, because I've said before, all my knowledge about my own menopause is in retrospect. Like, no, I never learned anything everything was a penny drop moment. Like, oh right, that's what that was. So I now realise that I had a terrible time with my teeth in my mid-40s. I split up with my partner in my mid-40s. I was suffering from anxiety in my early 40s. All of these very possibly symptoms of menopause, and then perimenopause, and then developed serious anxiety to the point where I was off work at 51. I was still having my period. My periods were playing fast and loose, basically, with me, toying with me, like the kitten with the dead mouse, just like, are you gonna stop? No, maybe we won't. That kind of situation.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking of menopause at all. I was having hot flushes. I had tingly legs. I'd gotten to the point where I was crying into my laptop and Googling depression symptoms and ticking every box.
Yeah.
So I ended up having time off work, but all the time I was off work, I worried about I felt guilty, and I worried about when I could get back, because I couldn't work out. It didn't occur to me that I could do other things. I mean, now, 7 years later, doing all the things that I do, that seems like a madness. But at the time, all I knew was teaching. I'd been doing it for almost 3 decades. I was very, very good at it. And it's all I knew. So I had time off and I worried about it. And then I went back to work far too early. Didn't get the support. No one was mentioning menopause, like no one.
No one.
No. Didn't get the support I needed, but also kind of didn't want it because I thought I can just soldier on. And then I fell down a hole. That's not funny, but
Right.
that's actually what happened. So the January of 2015, I'd gone back to work and I was in my local area and I was listening to someone play the piano beautifully. There was a piano outside the station at the time, and I clapped and I turned around, and next thing you know, I was flat on my face.
Right.
And basically there was a hole left by the Christmas tree that someone had taken out and not filled in yet. So and I sort of lay there for a bit, and of course the traffic lights were there and they were at stop and everybody was watching me, and I felt like I should spring up and bow, but I felt really humiliated and really confused. I was like, I'm really good at walking. What is this? What is this? Why am I on the floor? Anyway, I know. Went to my local cafe, sat down and burst into tears. And the lady who owns it said to me at the time, don't underestimate, make sure you go to doctors. Da, 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 da. So I was thinking, I'll be fine. I feel fine. I feel physically fine.
Yeah.
I've had a cry. That's over now. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And gradually over the next few months, so I'm back at work, and then within 2 weeks I was off work again. But again, it was all the mental well-being stuff. But physically, my body was starting to shut down.
Okay.
So I was finding it harder to walk. My right side was hurting, my arm was hurting, my shoulder was freezing up. It was all going on. It was, regular party in my body. And I thought, well, I'll go and get some massage. I bought a course of 10 massages, not cheap, let me tell you, because I thought, well, that will make it go away. I kind of self-cared myself. And then I went to the doctors and I had a list of the things I wanted to talk about. And one of them was that I'd fallen over, but I said, but this is what I'm going to do. So it was almost like, you don't need to worry about that. And then I said, I think I'm having hot flushes. I might be menopausal. And then she said, oh, well, and she started talking about antidepressants. I was like, okay, well, no, thanks. But I've always been someone who would go more left field first. My mother was into essential oils in the 70s when, that was essentially witchcraft, So I had, and her answer to everything is lavender oil, for everything. And so I thought, well, I'll try something else, but I didn't want to rule out antidepressants because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not averse to the meds when necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not how you say necessary. Necessary. Anyway, sorry. You can cut that out. I don't care.
I don't even remember. I can't even tell now because you said it several ways and I don't know which is the right one. I've lost all track. It's fine. We know what we do.
So what did I do? I was off work for longer, and I got to a point where I had an epiphany, if you like, or a kind of realization after a meeting in work that was, I'm not doing this anymore. They can't treat me like this. I'm not going back. And that moment of clarity was, well, life-changing, I would say, because this is me basically saying, fuck it.
Yeah.
That's what I paused because I wasn't sure whether I could swear. I thought, well, it's coming.
Please swear. Love it.
Here it comes. So so I didn't go back. And it was weird and scary. But then I thought, right, now I'll get better. Now I've quit my job. The job is the problem.
Yeah.
I'll get better. But of course, that's not how life works. And so what happened is it gave me the space to really stretch into my illness, like really feel all the corners, all the nooks and crannies of my physical and mental unwell-being.
Okay.
But also my aunt passed away around the same time, and I was grieving a life that I'd made up that we would have. She went in and out of hospital, and then whilst I was fantasizing about what an amazing niece I was going to be, she passed, and so I think, and then I felt guilty. There's a lot going on, so I felt guilty about grieving someone I saw 3 times a year and didn't call enough,
Yeah.
and I was, kind of, the loss was immense, and I was also dealing with, I was the closest kin in this country, so I was doing the funeral and selling the house and doing the estate and all this kind of thing. Thank God she had a will, all of that. And also my eldest daughter wasn't having a great time at uni and ended up coming home. I don't think you've ever done this, where you might be ill, but when somebody else is ill who's close to you, suddenly it's like your comfort zone is to be needed, and so you forget that you're ill. So that happened a lot. So even though I was in the throes of anxiety and depression and had just left my job, I was also putting all my energies into making sure my aunt's estate was sorting out and looking after my child, my eldest baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're able to get a bunch of energy that you might not have had because that's your job.
Yeah. And I've unpacked this in therapy, but there is something about that whole one eldest child of 4, eldest girl child, that wanting, that almost the comfort zone being to fix things and being the person who feels needed, like wanting to be needed. And I think that's also, for me, I was lonely. I was very lonely, and I was acknowledging it, but not kind of thing, because both the girls had been at uni or were going to uni or out or, living their life. And I was single.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, and at the time I didn't like my job. And then when I finished my job, I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, what do you do?
What a whole, you're empty nesting too, basically, right? Like it's not just that being lonely. It's like your kids are going, being needed of all those years of being needed is,
it's a lot. So I was processing a lot. So I got worse before I got better, like a lot worse. Oh my God. I got to the point where I was walking with a stick, a very stylish stick, I will say. But which I find, now I look back on it, you follow me on social media, so you follow each other, so you know that I run, and part of my running is this joy at the fact I can move at some kind of speed, whereas 5-6 years ago, I was, hobbling around with a pink cane.
There was no reason for that, like no physical reason for the pain that you were in walking.
So there was a physical reason, because I'd fallen down this hole.
Okay.
But the other side to that is I strongly believe that this is also about unaddressed trauma. I honestly believe that not addressing my pain from my breakup, which was not good, it wasn't one of those amicable ones at all, not processing, putting all my energies into other people, whether it's my family or my kids or whatever, I think that came to visit as well.
Yeah.
And I think it all arrived at the same time, because basically I had nothing to do. I didn't have a job. I was unemployed,
Yeah.
So that space I filled, it's all right. That space I filled with, I learned to meditate. I had always thought that meditation was for people who sat cross-legged on cushions and burnt incense and pinged bells. I do burn incense, but I can't sit cross-legged for longer than 2 minutes.
Not after 50.
It's not. Well, the thing is, I've never been able to. I have a dance background, so I was
an
arts degree. So I taught dance for 17 years. So I always felt a little bit like of an imposter, because I wasn't particularly bendy, but I was really good at the dancing bit. Like I couldn't do the splits and I couldn't sit cross-legged like, my mates in class. But if it came to choreography or learning something, I'm your woman.
Yeah.
And teaching, obviously. So I suppose this is also why, one of the reasons why not being able to move became such something that floored me.
Yeah.
You know. So I learned mindful meditation. I half read a book. I read half of a book by John Kabat-Zinn. And if you see the book, it's called.
Well, I have that book, and I've also read half of it,
Right.
because
So
it's massive. Yeah.
prop up, right. So you prop up, doors with it, don't you?
Get the idea. You get the idea.
And we have YouTube. We don't need the book. It's fine. It's fine. So I read that, and I did go into therapy finally, and I thought I'd go into therapy. No word of a lie. I thought I'll do 6 weeks. I'll be fine. I mean, I'm now. I'll be fixed.
Yeah, you didn't even get started.
And I was in therapy for 3 beautiful years. It is the best gift I ever gave myself, and I wish I'd started it sooner. Not that I'm in the habit of regretting anything, because everything happens when it's supposed to happen, but I feel that therapy should be free for everybody. I feel that everybody should be able to access the therapist they want, and I think that the state of mental health services around the world is rubbish.
Oh, and worse. Yeah. It should be like Thai massages for people in Thailand. Everyone gets them. It's not, it's completely accessible. Yeah. It's.
Yeah. So that happened. And I also physically, so my aunt left me some money, a little bit of money. And it was my youngest daughter's 21st birthday. And I said to her, you can either have a big party or we can go to Bali. Because there's a reason. Because her elder sister, and her boyfriend were traveling, and so the plan was to meet them in Bali.
Okay.
Luckily, because I wanted to go to Bali, she chose Bali, so we went on holiday, and we went to Ubud.
Yeah.
And Ubud has all the yoga. There's loads of yoga, so I booked all these classes to do. And could I do any? No, I was in pain. Couldn't do a thing. So there's one, and I picked all the, the slow ones. So I chose like yin yang yoga, and which I love saying, and restorative yoga and stuff like that. And I remember this class, this wonderful woman whose name escapes me. Damn. I remember she had long brown hair and the softest brown eyes and a kind face. And she, sometimes you remember how people made you feel. And I'm doing this class and I can only do a third of it. I'm in such pain. And at the end of it, I go up to her and I start to apologize for not being able to do the class. And I tell her about the pain I'm in. And she said, have you heard of yoga therapy? I'd never heard of that. She said, when you go back, go research yoga therapy and they will sort you out, kind of thing. So I found a place in Islington called the Life Centre, which sadly no longer exists. And I booked 4 sessions, I think. And so for those who don't know, yoga therapy is literally they look at the way you walk. You fill in a form beforehand about your physical history, and then they make you walk up and down, and then they ask you questions about what hurts and what doesn't hurt, and then they lay you down and put you on cushions and put a blanket over you and teach you a breathing exercise, and they bugger off for 10 minutes and then they come back and then they give you maybe 4 or 5 exercises to do, which are such tiny things, like moving your arm in a certain way, and you do it every day, and you have to breathe in a certain way, and it feels like you're doing nothing. So it's not like the yoga it's not like downward facing dog or any of those kind of things. It's the proper use of the term yoga, breath, and I did that and I went back every, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, and I am better. I have, and it's because the thing is that what this did is this allowed me to use my breath properly, because most humans walk around the earth not using what we've been given. We breathe quite shallowly, in a shallow way. I made a word up. Shallowly. And so they taught me how to breathe, and they taught me how to really appreciate minuscule movements. And gradually I started to get better. And I'd been back and forth to the doctors. I'd been to the hospital. The doctor was saying, just take naproxen, which is a really strong painkiller, for the rest of your life.
Right.
And I was like, nah, I can't do that. And I recommend yoga therapy to everybody, but it's actually quite hard. Well, I don't know about you guys, but certainly in London or where I am, it's hard to find one. But certainly that appreciation of breath is something that I've taken with me, and I know that I stretch every day anyway. But when I don't, or when I'm in a hurry, or when I decide I sleep in, or I want to do something else, my body shows me. It just basically says, "Oh, Karen, I'm going to make this hurt now," and then I go back to my breath practice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think you were disconnected from your body all those years and you
Yeah.
became more connected to it?
I think that I was masking. I think I was hiding behind my status of my job. I think
Right.
I was fixated on being perfect daughter,
Mhm.
perfect mother, definitely perfect at work. I loved that I was good. I loved that people referenced me and came in to observe my lessons and sent, I loved all that. But I also loved teaching. Kids are great. They're hilarious. They see through your bullshit. They keep you. They're funny. They're incredible. It was never about the kids. It was always about the system. Yes.
How did
So
you
yeah,
deal?
I
Like,
wasn't connected at all.
oh, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
all
I
right.
talked.
I'm just saying I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being the person in front of you. I was being who I thought I should be.
Mm.
But I was living up to somebody who I've made up, by the way, expectation of me, and I was doing the things that I thought I should do, and I was desperately unhappy.
I said a couple of years ago, just out of nowhere, there's no board of directors of the way things should be.
Yeah.
And but we all live according to this invisible, you call it whatever you want. It's like it's inside your head, it's outside your head. But I often think, how is this making perimenopause worse? The
Yes.
way, okay.
Sorry, was I not supposed to answer?
No, you were,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, it is. Absolutely, yes, it is. This system that we're born into, that we're living, the way that we are taught and socialized to behave, that we should do this and we should do that. I did a post about it on Instagram today about just how, list and comparing ourselves to people who have made so much money or have achieved certain things by 30. It just does us no service at all, no service at all. And so if I do nothing, my mission is to encourage women to listen much more closely to what they really want much earlier, so that it doesn't bite you in the bum when you hit menopause, because it bloody will.
Mhm.
We think we're supposed to make all this money, and we think these things are important, and they're just not. They're just not. But because we live in a white supremacist capitalist society and we have to make money to live and all that kind of stuff, it's very easy to get sucked in.
Mhm.
And that's what I was doing. I was, oh my God, I've got to keep my house. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm glad I kept my house. I'm glad I fought for it. I'm glad I did all that stuff. I was also a very good saver, because it stood me in good stead now. And it means that I have much more choice about my life now. But I also had several, say a good 15 years of feeling like shit. 10, 15 years of feeling like rubbish and feeling like I had no choice. And that's what I was saying to you earlier, is that when we recognize, actually, we do have a choice in our lives. We can say, we're allowed to say no.
Mhm.
Just because you've always done something doesn't mean you have to continue to do it.
Mhm.
And women have to get much more used to saying no from our chest,
Yeah, yeah.
instead of yes out of resentment, because that shit makes you ill. That resentment stays in your body. It stays in your body and it makes you ill. And that's what's happened, you know.
Coming up with a bunch of reasons why. Like, I just always think of my niece when she was like 4. She'd just be like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Yeah.
have such a hard time saying, like, I don't want to do this anymore. My brain has to come up with all these excuses to get out of it.
Mm.
It's something else. I realized that I have always done my own thing, but I've always felt like crap about it. Like, I haven't done the thing, but I've judged myself internally because I haven't done that. Like, I didn't get married or have kids, which would have been nice, but I didn't do it. But I never let myself feel good about it. But when I look back on my life, it's like, oh yeah, you have chosen the whole way. It's just that you haven't sat in it and appreciated it.
But Anne-Marie, you don't know whether it would have been nice.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't know. There are lots of people who are married who are having a horrible time.
Yeah, that is
got married because they thought it would be, because that's what little girls are supposed to do. They're supposed to want to get married.
Yeah.
You know? It's a crock of shite, honestly. It really is. And that doing your own thing and feeling guilty about it, that's because we're not praised for doing what we want to do. Our whole existence is predicated, I'm making these words up, guys, on how useful we are to men. That's it.
Yeah, and being chosen, right? Being chosen by a man.
Being chosen. So how are you useful if you're doing your own thing? How very dare you?
My dad said to me a year ago, because, you know, the marriages are not faring well. Like, if I could go back at 30 when I was going to those, you know, 10 weddings a year and just say, it's going to come, just wait. But my dad said, you must feel not satisfied, but he said, you must feel something. And I was like, I feel something. I don't know what it is.
I would have given my eye tooth if my ex had married me at the time. I can't express enough how glad I am that did not happen. You know, but that's what being chosen is what we're praised for. We're praised for nurturing others, doing things for others.
Yes.
You know, when you do things for yourself, you're selfish, you're a ball breaker, you're aggressive, you're just no.
No. So how did you, when you left your job, like identity wise, how did you reformulate yourself?
I got silent.
Question. It's a little complicated.
No, I know exactly what I did. I know the steps I took, but I also know that a lot of it was being silent. It was the gift of silence. Didn't feel like a gift at the time, let's be very clear. I didn't like it. I spent a lot of time under my duvet, spent a lot of time in my house, spent a lot of time under baggy, dark clothing.
Okay.
Anyone who knows me was like, what? I journaled. It's funny because I had always journaled when I was sad. So I've burnt them since, but I had journals that only had entries when I was feeling sad, and they were always about my boyfriend or my ex. And now I journal every day, and my journals have taken on a different kind of, I do it for a different reason. I do morning pages. So like the third page is the nitty gritty, you know, I write down things that I'm going to do or want to do, or I doodle, but I always try to, not every day, but I try to do something every day. That was helpful.
Okay.
Meditation was helpful. Being quiet was helpful.
Rest.
Therapy was immensely helpful.
Rest. Sorry?
I slept a lot.
Okay.
I slept a lot. I grieved. And I just was. And then because I'd lost my mojo. I'd always sewn. My mother taught me to sew when I was 15. I've always created something, always making things. I'd had a little hobby, side business, making bags. And I started to make clothes, but just clothes to put on my website. So I was always doing something. That was my challenge outside work. So when work stopped, and then I also lost the will to create, I literally had nothing to do, like nothing. So I started to look at, I knew I was starting to get better when I started to look at what I was wearing. And I've well documented about how my aunt wasn't into fashion, but liked well-made clothes. So she would buy from classics like Marks and Spencer, St. Michael, and C&A at the time. And I have a cup. When I was clearing her flat, I kept a couple of her skirts, a long A-line vintage red skirt and a pleated white chiffon number, which I would never look at normally. And when I missed her, I would wear one of those skirts. And I started to pay more attention to choosing clothing based on how I wanted to feel rather than how I felt. So to lift my mood. And I started to call it Wear You're Happy. And I started to bang on about it on Twitter and took a picture. And I was talking about things like soft textures and clothing with memory and jewelry that, you know, given to you by someone you love, or holiday clothes, stuff like that. And that helped a lot. Now it's something I do. I mean, it's my thing. I when I dress, I choose clothes to lift my mood. It might be color, often it's color, but often it's memory. All of my clothes, I haven't bought new clothes for, I can't even remember the last time I bought new clothes. Because all the clothing I love, you know, so I kind of rotate that. I also worked with I knew that I needed to make money.
Yeah.
And let's be very clear. And I thought, okay, so I can do supply, we call it supply teaching here. So cover teaching, and that'll be fine. And I'll do that 5 days a week. Well, it didn't work out that way. Supply teaching is hell. I found it was hell anyway, because I didn't have a rapport with kids. Often, you know, there were teachers, look, there is a teaching shortage anyway. So these kids were being hard done by at the best of times. And as good as a teacher I was, it was quite soul destroying to go into schools. And I wasn't enjoying it. And I was doing things like, I sew, so I was taking jobs that were coming to me because I thought that would pay the bills. And they were jobs that I didn't like doing. So I wasn't saying no. I didn't know my boundaries. I didn't know how good I was at what I do. I didn't have any self-worth. So I did all sorts of things and I didn't like it. I don't like alterations. I'm just putting it out there now. And I didn't like supply teaching. And then one day I decided not to do it anymore. I just, it was one of those, another one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Because I believe that if you rid your life of the stuff you don't like, it leaves space for the stuff you love to flood in. And that's exactly what happened. I remember the day I decided not to. And then what the universe does is it tests you. This is my belief. So you say, I'm never going to go out with guys who drink anymore. And the next person who wafts in front of you smells of booze, but he's really cute and he's got great abs, you know. Or in my case, it wasn't that. My case was, I'm not going to do supply teaching anymore. And then that morning, I had 4 phone calls of these different agencies begging me to come and teach. And every single time the phone rang and I looked at the number and I was thinking, God, but I could really do with this money. Because I remember I'm running out of money.
Yeah.
And I said no, and I said no, and I said no. And I'd had 5 months of no clients at all. And I was totally faking it till I made it. So Instagram was, you know, seeing all sorts of foolishness. And, you know, and I was making things, but I wasn't making them for clients. And then things started to happen and things started to pick up. And then I got the Specsavers modeling. And then, you know, I started to do other things. I started to say yes to myself, and I started to say yes in my chest, like, you know, stand up and go, actually, yeah, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that.
And I don't want to do that. Yeah. That's really
And the
important.
more you do it, it's practice. So the more you do it, the more you recognize, you're like, oh my God, I'm quite good at this. Oh, I'm good at this. Oh, I'm worth it. And it's incredible the effect it can have on your self-esteem.
Mhm.
And it pulled me, pull the right word, push, eased me out of depression
Okay.
and into a life where I'm thriving, I would say. I was determined to curate my next 30, 40, 50 years doing things that I love. I was never going to be unhappy about my choices when it came to work. Full stop. I wasn't going to be unhappy about my choices anyway, but in this particular case, I was
Yeah.
about work.
It's
And it worked. Yeah.
well, the way you were feeling is the way so many people feel when they're going through this, where everything is wrong almost. Like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
How do
I
you,
would agree.
yeah, how would you, like, I mean, I guess you were physically not well, so you found the yoga and you started therapy. What's your advice for that when you're just like, I don't even know?
I feel like, I mean, I'll give advice, but we hear what we need to hear
Mm.
when we need to hear it. Let's be very clear, because people would have given, for example, often business advice is you have to fail first. You have to fail 8 times or whatever the phrase is, And I would listen to that. I was like, but I don't want to fail. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. And
Just because
now
that person failed,
yeah,
just because that person failed and thinks it was necessary.
right. But actually, I look back on my life and I think, well, I failed forwards all through my life.
Mm.
Because failure isn't failure, it's a lesson.
Mhm.
That's a fantastic soundbite, and it'll make sense to people who it want to make sense to. But I'll tell you another thing I did, and this works, and it sounds really silly. I started to do affirmations.
Okay.
So I would go to my garden. I have a very small garden. I was going to say the bottom of my garden. You literally take 2 steps and you're there. So there's a tree at the bottom of my tiny garden, and I would talk to it. And I made up these affirmations for me, because you can only do your own affirmations. And I would say them out loud. And I felt really stupid for a year. I did it every day. And if I couldn't go outside, I would sit and look in the mirror. And for some people, looking in the mirror is hard,
Mhm.
Or I would just say, but I would say them out loud. I'd hear myself say them, and I would say things like, "Good morning, Karen Arthur. I am strong." And I would say all these things about myself that I didn't believe when I first started saying that. I am strong, I am loved, I'm cared for. I remember one of them was, I am remembered. I was petrified about being forgotten. It's
Mm.
really interesting. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I would say I am vibrant. You say the things that you want to be, as well as the things that you feel.
Yeah.
And you don't notice. I'm smiling because I remember how stupid I felt. I was hoping no one was listening to me. And I don't remember who suggested I do it, but affirmations work. They really do. Because a year later, I'm saying these affirmations and I'm tweaking them depending on how I'm feeling. And I'm like, oh my God, I am vibrant, and I am articulate, and my voice is valid. And oh, hello. And these are things that I tell my girls. I have 2 girls, 31 and 27. And I say the same thing to them. And I've given them affirmations. You can buy cards with affirmations on them that you can shuffle and turn yourself. But certainly, I think I put an affirmation thing on my Instagram recently, which basically just says, I am, I can, I will. And this is what I say often to myself. I'm selling my house at the moment. I want to move to the South Coast. I also want to move to Barbados. How that's going to take shape, who knows? But I can do it, and I will do it. And therefore, it's going to happen somehow. So I feel like we affirmations are what am I trying to say? Sometimes the things that we think are the most out there, I want to say that we could we should be much more, I don't want to say should, what do I want to say? I would like women to be much more in touch with our intuition, and much more in touch with our gut, and much more in touch with what is not necessarily concrete, because often we know the answers, again, completely woo-woo, but honestly, when you meet someone, when you meet someone, you're like, oh, they don't like me, or you spend time thinking, oh, what's wrong with you? I didn't really like it there, but you can't put your finger on it. That's just because your spirit didn't take to that person, or your energies weren't matching. It's much bigger than us. We have such massive egos about us as human beings, that we know everything. No, we don't.
Yeah.
No one knows what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. They're making it up as they go along. Governments don't know what they're doing. They're winging it.
Mm-hmm. Everyone is. Yeah.
Everyone is, And so I feel like things like affirmations, some people like crystals. I don't know enough about those to say anything, but I do have some, there are people who believe in star signs. You choose what works for you.
Yeah.
But I think if you repeat the I am is a very powerful sentence starter, and you add what it is you want to be. These are things you can write them, put them on your mirror, put them on your notice board, or on your phone as a screensaver.
Yeah.
I think these things they help, and for me they help me.
Yeah.
Combination of things. It's not just one thing.
And not for just a week. I mean, you said a year. That's some dedication, right?
No.
Like this is.
And now, I don't do affirmations so much now, but I constantly journal, and I will write affirmations. I mean, a recent one, when I was trying to pay my mortgage off, which I have done, I wrote, what did I write? Something about, I deserve abundance. I deserve love and abundance. I am a money magnet, I think is one of the things I wrote. I got that from somewhere. I just wrote down what I wanted. And it's not magic. Talk about manifestation. Oh, you can just think of something or write something down and you'll get it. No, that's work. But what you do when you write these things down is that there is something powerful about that intention. And if you're doing the right thing, it will come to you, but you think about it more, you're focused on it more. It's like learning new words. Suddenly you see it everywhere.
Yeah. And it's energy rather than, I mean, I just, on a simple level, like thinking about what you want versus what you don't want. You can just feel how that feels. I'm curious, did you ever make a decision to make menopause a thing? Like, was there a moment or?
Never. I was menopausal, and you know what it was? I couldn't, so I was doing this research. I was trying to find out, I was looking online, and I noticed that there weren't any people who looked like me, and I couldn't work out why that was a thing. Like, I'm menopausal. What? I don't, at the time I didn't have grey hair, and I didn't wear beige ever, so I couldn't, and I didn't feel that bad. So I started to do my own research and found the Swan report about Black women being more likely to start menopause up to 2 years earlier than our white counterparts, and to suffer for things like hot flushes for longer, that kind of thing. And I was like, it was like the Empress New Clothes. I was like, okay, so if this is in a big thing on the internet, why didn't anybody tell me? Like, why is it? What? I couldn't understand it. And you know this, Anne-Marie. 7 years ago, no one was talking about menopause. They just weren't.
Now
it just
really
wasn't.
cool.
Now it's business.
Yeah.
Menopause is a brand. Menopause is business now.
Yeah.
People are set to make a lot of money out of women's fear around all things to do with menopause. We have to keep our wits about us. So what I would do is I started to gather my girlfriends, my Black girlfriends, and I said, come round and let's chat. I said, I'm going through menopause. I know you must be too. Let's have a chat. And so I'm a teacher, so I did a worksheet because I can't help myself. And I gave them all pens. And we sat around our kitchen table, and I said, so one by one, what's everybody love about aging? And nobody could come up with anything. What does everybody hate about aging? And then all the symptoms came out. And what was interesting was that we all had different symptoms. Somebody else was having night sweats, somebody's joints were aching,
Yeah.
But what was fascinating about that was that it was just that feeling of, oh my God, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
It was, and I think I taught them some meditate. I taught them how to meditate. I fed them, the usual. And then they went home again. And I think we did that a couple of times. And then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then George Floyd was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was specifically interested in how Black menopausal women, knowing that stress can bring on menopause, can exacerbate menopause symptoms, knowing all of that, knowing about, by that time, racial weathering, which is the knowledge of and experience of racism, knowing all that stuff, I wanted to know how they were doing. I wanted to know how they were coping. How were they coping? I just wanted to know. And I guess, we were stuck in our houses. I wanted to reach out too. I guess I wanted some kind of connection. So I started the survey and I asked Black British women, specifically because I knew that the research was very American. They lump African Americans and Hispanic women together. And I knew that lovely Omar Shadi had her podcast, Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, but again, very American. But I wanted something that spoke to us, spoke to Black British. So I did the survey, and what came out of the survey was not so much around racism and menopause, and there isn't, Black women in menopause. That research isn't there because there's hardly any research about menopause full stop. So the nuances aren't coming yet. However, what did come out of that is the amount of women, Black women, who didn't know anything about menopause. Like nothing. So when I do the whole, there are maybe 34 or more symptoms, and then, list them all, and which ones are you? And they're like, God, I didn't know, and all this kind of stuff. And so I told them about Omi's podcast, Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, and then it was very clear they were saying, we'd like a podcast. And at that point, I was like, oh, so someone's going to do a podcast. Honestly.
Who's doing it? Who's going to?
I'm like, oh, well,
I've got to do it.
I'm looking around. I'm looking around, thinking, well, someone will do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was also petrified that. So, like, when I did my survey, I put it in my newsletter. I think I may have put something on Instagram, but I was scared of Twitter. Twitter's another planet, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I don't know about Twitter.
Twitter's like, it's like the Wild West.
Yeah, sometimes I see some conversations on there and I'm like, what?
So I waited an entire week before I put the survey on Twitter because I was convinced some academic would come for my throat and say, we did this research in, 2020.
Right. Someone was going to say, what are you talking about?
Worried. I was really worried. But actually, when I put it on Twitter, that's when, people started retweeting it and sharing it. And the research that had been done, asking Black women, last time Black women had been asked about menopause was back in 2007 even, which was Northamptonshire medical people, it's probably got a word, asking 22 BME, so that's Black and minority ethnic, so it's before Black and Asian, asking them about they wanted to know why Black women were less likely to take HRT. That was the reason. So there wasn't specifically about menopause, it was about HRT. And remember, this is the HRT from the 2002 report. Yeah. Not the HRT that we're talking about.
The synthetic,
you know what I mean? Right. So yeah, I had 400 people respond.
Amazing.
And yeah, I felt really strongly and still feel really strongly about being visible, and sharing stories and diversifying the space. And I just wanted to share the stories of Black British women because I'm a Black British woman. And I bought a microphone and I looked at it it was in the box for a month, sitting at the bottom of the kitchen table and waving at me, going, "Hi, when are you going to open me?" And then eventually I taught myself to podcast because it was like, well, no one else is going to do it. Maybe I'll just do it. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did.
It's your genre.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought two Black women sitting around talking about menopause would be a thing? But it's a thing. And it's a thing because no one else was doing it at the time. And because it was necessary,
Yeah.
And more people are doing it now. There's Black Menopause and Beyond by Anita Powell. There's one more. Oh no, and there's another lady who I interviewed. I'm speaking slowly because I'm trying to remember her name. It's going to really annoy me now. It'll come back to me.
Okay.
But she's Quest Life and Culture on Instagram, and she does a podcast, Menstruation to Menopause, which is really well.
Okay.
So my point is, it opened a dialogue and it made people sit up and go, oh, because what I did when I first got a rocket up my bum was to do a video asking everybody watching, if you Google menopause and you click images, what do you see? And everybody did it, and you couldn't unsee the sea of white faces. You couldn't, with their heads in their hands, you couldn't unsee it. Now, if you do it, you get a lot of infographics, a lot of lavender. What's that about? And now you've got more. It's a bit more diverse. But at the time, I guess it was groundbreaking. Well, it's just me chatting. It's just chatting.
It's a bit weird. Sorry. It's a bit weird when you said you were afraid when you put the survey out and you're afraid that someone's going to come and say, I did that. It's a bit weird when you do something in the world that no one else has done. That's weird. Just a bit of a weird feeling, right? All the time I come across research and I'm like, well, why is no one studying this? Or why has no one thought of that? And then I think, is it possible that I'm the only person that's thought of this? I can't be, but I'll search and search.
But I discovered that when we think we're the only one, we're not.
Yeah.
And that if there's something, this is what I'm discovering as I'm getting older, is that there's always someone else. And when you say the thing you're most scared of saying, I guarantee someone else is going to go, oh my God, me too.
Yeah, you've got to say it.
That feeling of that, what has saved me, what has helped me, what has helped me thrive has been my unwillingness to keep quiet. That's one thing, but also my willingness to be vulnerable. A good friend of mine, Shannon Mockingbird Mate, says your vulnerability is your strength. And when you speak up for others. You just didn't know that. We're unique, but we're not that unique.
Yeah,
we're human beings, and we are connected by these human feelings, and so what I didn't know was me speaking about my experience meant that many Black women feel seen and heard and don't feel the way I felt when I first started going through menopause. And I didn't want my girls to go through this. We are as Diane Dansbrink says, the generation to make menopause matter. We absolutely, the buck stops with us, because there's no fucking way my girls are going to be hit by the ton of bricks that menopause was like.
Right now, they know. Yeah. Well, they know it's not going to happen.
We're a bit vocal, aren't we?
I don't want anyone to not know. That's all. My niece and nephew know. They were when they were 8 and 10. I don't think they know what menopause is, but they're definitely going to know about it. But I am curious. What is that true that Black women are less likely to take hormone therapy? Is that an actual did that study find that? And do you think?
So the study found that whenever it was, over 15 years ago, you do the maths, but it's also the same now. So we are, I think, so HRT use in the UK has gone up, so it's 15% now of women who can take it, which is still a really low percentage.
It's still really low for how much of the conversation it gets, I think.
And Black women make up, I believe it's 8%.
Okay.
And there may be all sorts of reasons for that. There will be reasons around not trusting the medical profession, which is you know, a perfectly valid. There's medical racism. You know, it's based in the fact that medical advancement throughout history has been built on knowledge gained from Black bodies.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so there's that. We've been lied to. There's not wanting to, and this is not just for Black women. This will be for women who don't want to take HRT anyway. And this is the women who don't want to take it. I'm not talking about the women who can't take it for medical reasons. You know, there's not knowing enough. The research from 2002 has a lot to answer for, because HRT, hormone replacement therapy treatment, is very, very different now than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. You know, I will say that when I started talking about menopause, HRT wasn't on my agenda at all. It wasn't, ostensibly because when you mentioned it to my mum, she made such a face. It was like you were letting the foot down. It's like, how can I put this? So HRT is for people who can't deal with menopause. Like, it's that kind of thing. You know, that whole kind of, oh, well, I was thinking, well, my symptoms are okay, I can cope. But actually, my reasons for taking hormone replacement therapy aren't around my symptoms. I mean, they help. I don't have hot flushes anymore, which means I can have a glass of wine without expecting the rush to come through. But that's not the reason. My reason is about the current research, which is around longevity and around osteoporosis and heart disease, and Alzheimer's was the big thing for me personally.
Yeah.
But I also know that I'm trusting that research is right. And I also know that if I decide a year down the line or 6 months down the line, you know what, this isn't working for me, I will speak to a doctor and then find a way, do other things. And I don't take HRT without also running 3 times a week, doing my weights, watching my diet, although I did eat half a packet of shortbread last night, but we're not talking about that. You know,
Regularly, yeah.
I've set boundaries in place. I'm very good at that now. I still meditate. I do this. Do you know what I mean? I do.
Yeah, you're not.
I don't want people to think that HRT fixes everything, because it doesn't. And also, HRT takes patience, because it's taken me, what are we, 8, 9? We're 9 months in now, and I'm finally getting the dosage right. So,
okay.
You know, look, you things, your body, you're adding hormones to your body, so your body's like, what the fuck is happening here? So it plays.
Okay.
You know, my boobs got hurt. They hurt, actually, and some people suffer from bleeds. So you've got to be prepared to think about the long haul. You know, my mum, she was like, I don't need that. You know, but she's talking about that the HRT that she would have been offered.
Right, like you're on bioidentical.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's the what is it, made from yams?
Yeah. Estradiol and progesterone. Have you noticed any other things from taking it? Have you noticed any other benefits or?
Well, I also take testosterone. I know that's not for everyone.
Oh, okay.
I know, your little face.
No, I'm interested. I'm really interested in testosterone.
So you can't take that until so I had my blood tests, and they found that my estrogen level was really low, and my testosterone level was really low. So I took estrogel first for, I think, 3 months, to get my estrogen levels up before I started taking testosterone. And then testosterone takes a good 4 months to kick in. And what I've noticed, well, I'm not napping in the afternoon anymore.
Okay.
I'm knackered. I have a lot more energy, and I don't need to sleep as long. I was an 8 hour, 7.5 hour on, like, needed that. Now I wake up naturally after about 6.5, 7 hours, which this one thing I noticed that I thought, oh, this is different. Do I think I could live without it? Yes, I bloody could.
Okay.
Do I like it? Yeah, I bloody do.
Yeah.
You know, I feel, as with taking some people don't, the people who love HRT, the people who bang on about it, don't like calling it a drug. But at the end of the day, I think it personally, I think it is. This is my personal opinion, guys. And I am loath to be reliant on something that I have to take for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
However, which is why I'm not a big fan of hay fever tablets, but I'm having to take them because hay fever is kicking my butt right now, and I'm not, I'm less likely to take headache tablets. I'm more likely to eat or drink some water, that kind of thing. Yep. So that kept me away from it for a while as well.
Okay.
But I will say that if modern technology can help me to live a more active life in a way that I want to live it, then I'm here for it at this moment whilst I'm talking to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'm curious what you think about what's going on in the UK right now, because there's a huge division, and HRT, I feel, is right at the center of it, and this like deficiency narrative, which I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about this?
What do I think?
I've seen you speak about it, but I can't remember what you said. Sorry.
I think that I don't know whether I call it a division, but I think there are people who believe that we shouldn't call it a deficiency because it is a natural part of us, of aging. I don't know, I feel like I want to believe what works for me. And I think that if we think about it as a division, I want us to work together. And I think our aim should be about spreading the word about menopause and recognizing that how you care for your menopause is down to you. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're listening to people and you feel you're hanging on their every word, then it becomes a them and us situation. Yeah. And that makes me feel quite uncomfortable. It's really interesting. It's an interesting question because I didn't tell anybody except for my sister, that I was on HRT for ages. And I had to think, and then I had to say to myself, now, Karen, what's that about? Why aren't you telling people? Why, and so when I did do it, I talked about the HRT shortages.
Okay.
Basically, in that kind of context, and saying, because I felt like a bit of a fool, like all this time, I prided myself on the fact that I wasn't taking HRT and I didn't need anything. And then the next thing you know, I can't even get it. Right. I feel like sometimes the media and the narrative want women to be
sometimes all the time.
On other right on other side. So the doctors see, there seems to be this narrative around doctors being up in arms because all the women demanding HRT has create the shortage, and they're medicalizing, menopause, and it's not as simple as that. Well, yeah, absolutely right. It's not simple as that, but it is getting into the news, and people are talking about it.
Yeah,
and I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
Do I think it's a deficiency? Well, I can only go on what people who know much more than me are saying. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. I'm an expert on me.
I just knocked something over. Sorry.
I'm not. It's all right. I'm not a doctor.
No.
So I can't speak for if the doctor's saying this, then I'm going to take that information. Then I'm going to look at my situation, and if that works for me, fine. But it might not work for you. You see?
Yeah. This is one reason that the only thing that like bugs me from where I'm sitting is when people treat like one doctor like a guru, like everything that doctor says. You touched on that earlier. That really bothers me because I've interviewed so many doctors since I've been doing this, and the gaps in what they know, the gaps with their opinions, their belief systems, the things they're sort of blind to, is really shocking to me. So, sometimes I'll put something and I'll say I'm not sure about it, and then people will just tag doctors like, oh, well, you would be sure if you followed this doctor kind of thing. And I feel like saying, please follow like 5 doctors on social media and you'll see the difference.
I agree. And it annoys me. And I think there's a danger in hanging on someone's every word. I think as grown-ups, we have a responsibility to listen to lots of other people and then and at the bottom line, come to a decision for ourselves. Remember, Coca-Cola was a health drink once.
Yeah.
You know, let's just hold on to that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel like things may change. 5 years' time, we may have different research. 10 years' time, we may have different research. But right now, do what's best for you based on we make lots of, when we make decisions about things, when we make big purchases, we get recommendations, don't we? We go to different people, we get different reviews. Why won't we do that with doctors? Why don't we do that with menopause research?
Well, I think it's exhausting, right? So it's, if someone tells you something, it's tempting to just want to have it solved. I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And I also feel that I think menopause care is exhausting. I will add, I'm glad you said that, because there are times I want to run away.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when I'm being asked, I don't mean now, but I'm being asked about like my DMs and Instagram and things like that, about things that I don't know anything about or don't know enough about to have an opinion about. And I feel there's so much information. Eat this vitamin, do this, follow this brand, drink this tea, do this exercise, don't do that exercise, actually I'm not surprised that menopausal women are like clutching onto, if someone says something with enough authority, I'm not surprised I'm not surprised at all.
Neither.
Because it's a lot. Even I love your newsletter. If anybody listening to this doesn't follow your newsletter, I don't understand what they're doing. But seriously, there's so much. I have to bookmark it because there's so much in there, and the research is changing all the time. So at some point, you have to go, you know what? How do I feel? I feel like this. This works for me. This is what I'm going to do. And the rest can take a running jump.
Yeah. At some point, you have to decide what to do. You can't, keep listening. I mean, I even haven't decided what to do. And it's hard for me because it's not hard for me, but you know what I mean? I'm researching it constantly. And so if it's hard for me, I can't imagine how it is for someone else. But yeah, you have to just decide and go. And you can change your mind, like you said.
This is it. This is the point. You can change your mind. I get to change my mind. We are grown-ups.
We are.
If I want wine in the morning for breakfast, I can. I don't, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, if we're not going to, if we can't change our mind now, if we can't decide what to do now, we never shall. So yeah. Exactly. Oh, well, Karen, it's like just as lovely speaking to you as I always thought it would be. It's just wonderful. Sometimes you write back to my newsletter and tell me to rest, and it's lovely. I love it.
Because you do so much work. I don't know how you do that newsletter. I really don't. But honestly, it's brilliant. But as I say, there are bits that I'm like, my brain is full. I can't read that right now.
Yeah.
But I feel that, your tagline, doing the research so you don't have to, is absolutely it.
What I'm doing. Research you don't have time to do. Anyway, well, thank you for being such a supporter. That meant a lot. You were one of those people when you signed up, I was like, woohoo. You and who else did I make an actual, not very many, like there's been CEOs and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But you and Mona Altahawe, both of you, I was like, woohoo. Yeah, I just was so excited because that's a fun part. She's lovely. Yeah, she's absolutely lovely. I'm writing an essay for her. Now I'm losing my train of thought. There, an anthology.
I can't think of the word either, but
the anthology that's coming up. So, well, it's just as lovely. I hope I speak to you again, but thank you. Have a wonderful, I hope your hay fever.
Oh God, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Thank you very much. You speak and you take care.
You too. Take care.
Bye.